Okay, Nathan, thanks for joining us here. You're the founder of Test EV. Tell us a little bit about that company and what you do.
Yeah, I'm the provider of EV battery health testing across Australia and New Zealand. That's developed by a company called Avalou out of Austria, and the world's leader at this sort of stuff. And I'm happy to be building a network across Australia and New Zealand for consumers to get hold of that battery health testing.
Okay, and so you're testing batteries. So what are the types of users that are interested in testing their batteries? Is that part of selling it on to another user?
Yeah, typically it's around that used car space when I want to buy or sell an EV. Great car, but what about the battery health? This answers that question. It's also a great time when you're looking at coming up towards the end of your warranty period and you're trying to work out whether or not you've got a warranty conversation with your manufacturer. That's a great time to get testing as well. Or if you've got a problem and you're not really sure what's going on, another great time to get a battery test.
There you go.
Great. And without getting too technical, what goes into testing a battery? What sort of things are you looking for?
Yeah, look, we're looking for a couple of things. We're looking about how much energy is available to be held in that battery. That's our battery health. It's typically shown as a percentage of the original 100%. So you might have a 90% battery health. That's one part. We're also looking at things like the cell individual voltage balancing. So not too technical, but the battery needs to be really well balanced. And if it's not, it's going to hurt one of the cells, and that's going to be a problem. So, and then there's several other systems-related things that we test when we do our flash test.
Yeah, and you must have tested a lot of batteries, and I think we know one of the classic myths of EVs in general is that the battery's going to die in a few years. And what sort of trends are you seeing, and like what's the overall sort of takeaways from testing all these batteries?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a great life of our batteries. We're typically seeing, many hundreds of thousands of Ks out of vehicles. I've got lots of anecdotal stories. One of the ones out of one of our customers, Pickles, they've got a whole load of testing. They've done over 1,000 tests in the last couple of years, and the average battery test of a result out of those vehicles that they're putting through their auctions is 96% healthy. Another one would be a 400,000 kilometre Model 3 that's been run by an Uber driver that I know quite well, and he had a battery health of 82%. So, these really good markers of how well these batteries are going to last. But saying that, about 1 to 2% of the vehicles that we test do have faults in them, so it's not like it doesn't happen.
Right, and yeah, so that 84% after 400,000 Ks, it's 82, and so that's miles ahead of what they're guaranteeing through the warranty.
That's right. So the warranty of most EVs is the vehicle needs to be able to provide 70% battery health up until 8 years and 160,000 Ks. And so if you're dipping below that 70% health, it's a warranty conversation, and we're not even seeing anywhere near that in 400,000 Ks in this particular vehicle's example. And many others. I had a Polestar just the other day, 200,000 Ks, and it was 90% health. So we've got some really great figures out there, but I think also we're going to start to see the value of an EV be somewhat impacted by how healthy the battery is. So if you've got one that's a little bit more worn out as such, it might be worth a little less than one that's a bit healthier.
Yeah, interesting. And so if we go to the other side of the spectrum, that rare 1 to 2% that have a fault, what sort of things are going wrong in those batteries?
Yeah, we find all sorts of things. We find battery degradation, so the energy that's being stored in that battery is become less and less, and so that's one sort of failure mode. The other one is batteries that are battery cells, individual cells in the battery pack that are lower in voltage and have started to collapse from an electrical point of view. So that's another big one, and your battery's only as good as the weakest link, so that's something there. And the other one is we see some sensors sometimes fail, both current and voltage sensors. So these things all sort of lead towards, is the battery in a healthy spot? Sometimes we even see the software as the wrong version, and it causes some dramas too. So there's several things that we're looking at in there.
Thanks, Nathan. Why don't you give us a bit of a talk through some of the equipment that you test these batteries with?
Yeah, so we've got a bespoke device that is made by Avalou in Austria, and this device plugs into the vehicle using a connector, typically for the OBD port, or in the case of some vehicles where you have to add other cabling, we've got those other cables available to us. And then with a 3-minute static test, the vehicle gathers all of the data It puts it through into a package of data that we will then send back via SIM card on board to our servers, and we check that data. Over 100,000 pieces of information, and that will then help generate our test here, which will give us our battery health, how the vehicle compares to other vehicles we've tested, and a whole bunch of other techie data that tells us that it's in good health, or if there's an issue, we'll detect it and provide plain English feedback on what that looks like.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for taking us through that. Okay, and you may not want to go on the record for this, but of those 1% to 2%, is the particular brands that you see coming up more often than others?
Look, there are a few brands that are probably well known for not having the same longevity as others. I think there's some key components there. There's the sort of chemistry that the vehicles have got in their batteries. There's also the management of them. The electronic management and the temperature management of a battery are very large parts of their health outcome. And I think it's a bit like humans, right? You know, if we eat well and exercise well and don't live in the desert, then we'll probably look a little bit better and healthier as we go on. Whereas something that is heavily stressed might end up being looking like it's had a long paper round. So we definitely see that with EV batteries.
Great. Okay. Thanks so much for your time, Nathan. I hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me.